Mark Leibovich, top writer for The Atlantic, saying Biden should not run for re-election. It's not just Sean Hannity talking about Biden's age, it's The Atlantic magazine.
That's right, and it was an outstanding piece by Mark. Without taking a stand on whether he's too old to run for re-election, let me just run through what's true, what's false, and what gets conflated. What is true is the presidency's a hugely taxing job, mentally and physically, and Joe Biden is old. He doesn't talk or walk as smoothly as he once did. That suggests challenges, and when you get into your 80s, which he's about to do, the risk of health problems grows with every year. On the other hand, what's false is that he is not capable of doing the job right now, or he's not mentally in tune with the demands of the job. Anybody, any aide who engages with him, or reporters, we can see this. The gears of his mind are working. That's an issue pushed by right-wing media, but it's not correct. And what gets conflated is this. President Biden is in a weak political position right now, and because he's old, people think he's weak because he's old. His biggest political problem right now is $5 a gallon gas. Right. Gas is not $5 a gallon because Joe Biden's old. His legislative program is not stymied in Congress because Joe Biden is old. It's because he's got a 50-50 Senate, and one of the members of that Democratic Senate comes from a Trump plus 39 state. I think the other thing that we should point out is that younger, more vibrant presidents like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama also had tremendous political problems in their second years, got hammered in midterm elections, and they ended up politically healthier. So Joe Biden would look a little bit younger if he was at 50% than at 40%, but he's not, and so he's going to have to deal with these stories for some time.
But all of that context you're providing, John, is that an argument, Danielle, that the president needs to be giving a lot more interviews in order to tell that story?
Well, I mean, he just has to. Like, for example, I would love to have him at HuffPost. We'd love to talk to him about anything he'd like to talk about. The reality is, not talking doesn't solve anything. Like, you can not talk and you can prove that you're not willing to fight, and then you can lose the midterms and then possibly even lose in 2024. You have to maintain being proactive. You have to be aggressive. You have to stay out there. Because it's not like, yes, he's very blunt and gaffe prone. Like, that's the reality. But not talking doesn't change the reality. Not talking just makes him not part of the news cycle, not part of the story, not controlling the narrative.
And I like the reality about what Biden can control and cannot control. He can control how much he communicates or not. He cannot control, and John Harwood, this is a point you made in one of your CNN.com columns, he cannot control the Fed actions or the minutia of inflation. You pointed out in one of your columns, the Fed doesn't have daily press briefings, but the White House does. So maybe the White House gets more blame about economic problems than it actually deserves? Is that a fair statement?
Well, yes, in terms of this particular economic problem. Look, it is fair to say that Joe Biden's fiscal policy at the beginning of the administration may have exacerbated the problem of inflation. It did not create the problem of inflation. There are many factors that went into that, including supply shocks from the pandemic, loose monetary policy from the Federal Reserve, the war in Ukraine, all of that. The economy springing back to life from the pandemic, that in itself made demand surge, and the government had put a lot of money in people's pockets. So that's a legitimate criticism. On the other hand, the Federal Reserve is the steward of monetary policy. That's the most important way of controlling inflation. And Joe Biden, as the face of the American government, gets asked every single day, what's your strategy on inflation? What's your message on inflation? There aren't too many good answers for that, and the president has to come up with some answers. And we're going to be dealing with this all the way through the election because inflation is going to be with us through then. But the idea that any president of the United States, for example, can just make gas prices go down is kind of ridiculous.